Hi everybody, my name is Michael Boney. I'm here with Shonda Groom and Carmelo Vanucci, and we're here to talk to you about Camden, provide a community assessment on the city. Camden, Arkansas is located about 100 miles south of Little Rock, Arkansas, and 25 miles north of El Dorado, Arkansas. When we began this assessment, we had to define what we were going to look at as a community. Doing so, we went to Stanhope and Lancaster and looked at their definition and saw it as a locality-based entity composed of systems of formal organizations, reflecting societies, institutions, informal groups, and aggregates, which, a long story short, it's a community of place with geographical boundaries, and that's how we kind of wanted to make it easy and define where we were going to look at. So we looked at the city itself of Camden, Arkansas. The population of Camden has a total of 11,836 residents within the city limits. This has declined about 10% since 2000. Mainly because some of the industry in town has folded up their doors and went elsewhere or just out of business altogether. We have a moderately diverse race. African Americans are the majority and comprise 54.3% of the population, where Caucasians are just under 41%. People that report more than one race are actually the next most diverse population. They comprise 2.4%, more than Hispanics, American Indians, and Asian Americans combined in the area. And the median age of Camden is 39.5 years old, just actually a little bit younger as far as the median age is concerned than the rest of the state, which is approximately 42.2 years old. One thing unique to Camden, as opposed to the surrounding areas, is our older population, older than 65, is a little bit higher than the state average at 17.4% of the population. And persons under 18-year-old are 25.3% of the population versus 6.8% respectively. The median cost of a home in Camden is $65,742. Now, for the rest of the state, the median home average is $106,300. It's a poorer area, and we'll talk more about that in a moment when we get to economic systems. But the median wage in Camden is only $29,383 as of 2012. Now, the cost of living here is a little lower, and for the average of $494 per month, you can find rental properties that you can utilize. But honestly, $300, $325, you can find adequate housing, and that kind of helps with some of the poverty issues that are in the area. Because of the number of folks that live here being below the poverty level, the local housing authority tells us that about 30% of the people receive some kind of public assistance for housing. There are several housing projects in the area, and in addition to this, some individuals qualify for what's called Section 8 if there are no housing units available in the housing projects. It's an income-based rental assistance that allows people to rent homes that have been certified based on what they're able to pay according to their income. The family situations in Camden, like much of the South and probably a lot of the United States, is ideally utilizing a nuclear family concept, a mom, dad, and the children. And, of course, not everyone has this arrangement, but this is by and large the main philosophy for living here in the area. Most women choose to have their children in the hospital. There may be a few that have alternative methods that have home births and use midwives, but really the vast majority come to the hospital to have their children. If there's some kind of high-risk pregnancies, they have to be diverted, usually to Little Rock, because we don't really have any gynecological support and OB support that can handle those kind of problems. So they go to the larger hospitals in the larger metropolitan area. Excuse me. Families, when children are born, they tend to celebrate the birth of the child. They show up in mass at the hospital, and it's a time of happiness and celebration. Everyone wants to hold the baby, be around them, congratulate the parents. Showers are given to give the expectant mother things that she needs for the child. And as the children are reared, extended families, many times come in and assist with this. Family and close friends serve as godparents. They're parafamilial uncles and aunts that usually close friends of one of the parents. Usually they're close friends of the family, and the children learn to call them aunt or uncle because they do spend so much time in the children's lives. So it really takes a village, and many times that's what you have with the families in the area. Transportation in our area is usually by a privately owned automobile. There's no taxi services, no chauffeur services of any kind. There are no bus services. You generally utilize walking, bicycling, but mainly personal automobile. Due to the fact that Camden's very spread out and kind of a rural area, walking's not really practical to get to where one wants to get anywhere in town, so they usually either, if they don't have a vehicle, they have to catch a ride with a friend or an acquaintance or carpool to work with co-workers. And this can make finding gainful employment if you do not have an automobile kind of difficult. However, most people have their own vehicle here in Camden, like most rural areas. Traffic's never congested. The road system's well ordered and maintained and laid out. There's a county road crew that maintains all county roads outside the city limits. But within Camden, there's a road crew that works for the city of Camden, and they keep all the roads clear of debris and maintained and in good order. If, just of note, there is a service that provides transportation to those who are on Medicare and Medicaid sometimes who can't afford their transportation, they're homebound or whatever, they can seek this out through the senior center, and they are able to get rides to doctor appointments if necessary. Economic systems in Camden vary kind of greatly across the board. In the 1920s, International Paper became the dominant employer in the area by building a paper mill in an area south of Camden proper called Cullendale. It extended the city limits, and now Cullendale, as it has been for many years, is an area of Camden within the city limits. But in 2001, the paper mill closed its doors, and International Paper left. Other employers is a large industrial park to the east of town. actually crosses over into another county, but it's mainly considered part of Camden. And they manufacture and test war material and other munitions that are used to fight. General Dynamics, Lockheed, Fault Systems, all of these and many more produce and employ the vast majority of the people in Camden. They are the single largest employer of all people in Camden. The forest industry is another big employer and brings a lot of money to this town. Once International Paper closed its doors, many mills, such as lumber mills, chip mills, came into being, and they handle the majority of the timber that used to go to International Paper. They feed logging crews, timber plantation owners, so that helped to offset some of the losses from International Paper, which lost almost 400 jobs in the area. The healthcare, retail, and food service sectors capture the rest of the, or most of the rest of the employment there in Camden and drive the economy. Healthcare is a very large employer. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But of note is another significant industry that went down was ArcWest Incorporated, which was also located in the Highland Industrial Park. They made private label diapers, which sold to Walmart, AFES, Kroger, other large retailers, their own private label of diapers. When this went down, there was over 300 jobs lost in that area. And these two industries, between the paper mill and ArcWest Incorporated, were probably the most significant drivers in the reduction of the 10% population lost. Currently, the unemployment rate for Camden is 9.3%. As you can see, it hasn't really recovered completely from these losses of these two large employers. There were others that went down during this time, mostly due to the economy that kind of went south in 2008. However, much of the losses have been absorbed by the increase in production in the military-industrial complex east of town. As the war on terror took off and got more intense, more munitions were needed, research and development increased, and many, many more jobs were created. And this helped a lot by bringing others to the area, many times veterans that were seeking employment from all over the country, and they were able to land positions at this large industrial park. As far as protective systems in Camden, have a robust police department. The city police department employs 22 police officers. The county, Ouachita County Sheriff's Office, which also patrols city streets and areas as well as outlying county areas, employ 30 officers. Plus auxiliary officers that work part-time, just as they can or as they're needed. One thing that has developed in recent years is a brand new detention facility in Camden that actually was placed at the Cullendale area and is home for the Ouachita County Sheriff's Office and the circuit courts. They receive prisoners that from overloaded jails out of town, such as Pulaski County and Texarkana, and have a female holding facility. And for a fee, they're able to maintain these prisoners, and so it become an extra source of income and helps fund the police force even better, provide them with the latest equipment. So in addition to what you would normally have in a small town as far as a police force, they have the added benefit of that. That being said, crime in Camden is slightly higher than in the rest of the state. And I say slightly, I may even say significantly. You have a 1 in 55 chance of becoming a victim of violent crime in Camden, Arkansas. And that's compared to 1 in 208 for the rest of the state of Arkansas. So, being employed in the emergency room, I can tell you this is probably true. Although there aren't very many gun crimes that we see come through Camden, we see quite a few stabbings and many physical altercations, many times perpetrated with a club or some kind of blunt force object. Property crimes, you have a rate of 1 in 20. That's your chances of being involved in theft or having your property vandalized. If you'll notice, compared to the surrounding areas, Camden, the higher the number in this particular statistical analysis, indicates a higher prevalence of crime. If you see Camden, which we have situated at the top for ease of sight, is higher than in most of the surrounding areas. The only higher areas we have are El Dorado, which is to the south, and Prescott, which is far to our west. There are 3 fire stations located in Camden. They're strategically located across town. You have one small number 2 fire station in the Cullendale area. You have a fire station they call number 3, which is located on the Highway 79 on the south side of town. And then you have the main number 1 fire station, and that's located in downtown Camden. There are 30 full-time firefighters, counting 1 secretary. There are 20 volunteers available to respond at any given time to any fire anywhere in the county, actually. Fire hydrants are located throughout Camden. You can see here, their main, as he's blowing one out, what they call, they do this twice a year. This is part of a effort that helps maintain Camden as a Class 4 fire department and reduces the load of homeowners insurance. So Camden is very well protected against fire. Now, one issue that can be brought up is, of course, we have this industrial park where we have a lot of military munitions. It's not uncommon for there to be a fire in this area, and when these things catch on fire, they tend to be pretty significant. If this happens just every so often, every several years it seems, you can actually hear the explosion in Camden, which is several miles out from this industrial park if one of these things catches on fire. So, you know, a emergency response plan is always maintained via the emergency room, Camden Fire Department, other local emergency services, and with all the things that are stored at the industrial park. So there are protocols in place and collaboration that helps mitigate some of the dangers afforded to the community through the production of these munitions out in this area. As far as food service supply system, there's 10 full-service restaurants in Camden. There are many more fast food franchises that operate and provide high-calorie, low-nutrient foods, and several other small food service vendors that operate sporadically throughout the city. The food served by these services are not considered healthy. It contributes to the problem with obesity. We live in the South here, and people like Southern cuisine. We like our fish fried, and we put enough pork fat into the vegetables to make them fairly unhealthy. So this is an issue. Now, one thing that there is in Camden, 4 large grocery stores, and they provide pre-cooked food as well, many times with healthy offerings such as baked chicken, roasted chicken, things of that nature, and large fresh produce areas in each of these grocery stores. So the opportunities are there to make healthy food choices. Many times, though, they're not necessarily utilized the way they could by residents in the area. The cost of food is comparable to other areas in the South Arkansas region, but the fact that 26% of the residents live at or below the national poverty level, oh, I'm sorry, strike that, 33%, that makes it more difficult for some of them to make healthy food choices. Sometimes they have to choose between quantity of food with the quality of the nutrient density, and have to get the processed food products that will go a long ways and last a little while on their pantry shelves. Religious groups, religion's a strong influence in South Arkansas, and Camden's no different. Predominantly Christianity, and the majority of the churches in town have Protestant religion roots. The majority of the churches are Baptist, with 53% being Southern Baptist, followed by United Methodist at 16%, Missionary Baptist, there we go again, 8%, Assemblies of God are 7.6%, Church of Christ comes in at 5.4%, American Baptist Association 4%, Presbyterian 3.4%. There is one Catholic church that accounts for 1.3% of parishioners there in town. Because of the strong Christian presence, there's been a large, the area's been largely conservative in their values. I can recall up to about 2 decades ago, even all the stores in Camden mostly were closed on Sunday. About the only thing you could get from a store was a grocery store, which everyone always went to the grocery store on Sunday afternoon after they had met with their families after church, and McDonald's, and that only got here in probably the early 1980s. So now, though, Walmart and just about every business in town, retailer-wise, is open on Sundays, and moving more to that 24-hour cycle that inhabits the rest of the country. Now, the educational system, we're slightly below average down in Camden. Adults less than 25-year-olds in the area have a high school graduate or equivalent. Of 83.5%. Only 16%, though, hold a bachelor's degree, and 5% have a graduate or professional degree. So, although having a high school diploma is valued in the area, higher level education is not very sought after, it seems, and this probably is a significant contributor to some of the poverty level that we have there in Camden. There's 2 public school systems. Back in 1992, there were 3 school systems, but Camden High School and Fairview High School, the public school systems of the 2, consolidated and made for one large public school. Built a new building, and they really have a state-of-the-art school there. But of course, it doesn't come without its growing pains. But now, at this time, every child that goes to school there has only known one public school, so most of those problems have passed, and that school system's going strong. Harmony Grove School District is a district across the river, what they call on the east side of the river. A little bit more of a rural school, but a very good school district. They have about 400 students and operate two schools, a high school and what they call elementary school, which is grades K through 6. There's two private schools in town. Both are faith-based, Victory Christian School and Camden Christian Academy. And there's a community college in the industrial park known as Southern Arkansas University Tech. That has one of the, to be honest, one of the greatest graphic design and media departments in the state. So they have a pretty good thriving area out there across the river. There's also vocational training at the Camden Career Center, and agricultural education is offered at both of the public school systems. So well-rounded educational opportunities are there. We just have to do more to encourage higher level education. As far as the health system, there's a main inpatient treatment center there in Camden is the Ouachita County Medical Center. It's a critical access hospital located in the proper part of Camden. They offer inpatient services, a 30-bed med-surg floor. There's hospice respite care there for some of the providers. They offer hospice services and home health services through Doctor's Home Care. If a patient requires more specialized treatment, then they have to go to a higher level of care, usually in Little Rock, at one of the larger hospitals there that have specialty providers, or El Dorado, Pine Bluff, and even Hot Springs or Texarkana at times. Most nephrology care, as a matter of fact, is transferred to Hot Springs. There are two internal medicine clinics, an OBGYN clinic, and a urology clinic close to Camden, as well as 4 surgeons that work in the area and a large family clinic where the majority of people go for their primary care, Ouachita Valley Family Clinic. And it's owned by Baptist Health System. There's 4 skilled nursing and rehab facilities in the area, and that, due to the increased population over 65, these usually stay to capacity and provide excellent care for older individuals. There's 6 pharmacies in the area and 4 dentists in town practice. And most of these facilities in town, due to the economic disparity in the area, accept Medicaid and our kids' insurance. So there is access to health care for the disadvantaged. Mental health services are provided by South Arkansas Regional Health, and Day Springs also has a behavioral health center there in Camden. They provide outpatient care. If a person has acute psychoses or other disorders as such, they're usually brought to the emergency room and transferred to a larger mental health facility, such as Levi or the Bridgeway or things of that nature. The local health department is also available to all those in the area. They provide help with family planning services, WIC services, disease control. They're part of the disaster preparedness prevention teams there in the area. They help with and really maintain the birth control or birth certificate and death certificates in the county. Disease control, test wells, swimming pools, everything you expect the health department to do. They have a really strong health department there in Camden, Arkansas. There's a picture of many of the people that work at Ouachita County Medical Center. They call it the safety net of the community. You Communication system in Camden, there's a local daily paper that comes out once a week, or it comes out daily, but once a week on Sunday. There's a regional paper that consolidates with the newspapers from El Dorado and Magnolia. Those areas, due to their proximity to each other, form what's known as the Golden Triangle. They have a Sunday edition that's a little bit larger, a little bit more in depth, color photos and whatnot. There's also 3 local radio stations that are owned by the same company. They all have different formats, so between those 4 entities right there, you can get information out to the entire public, just whoever you want to, however fast you need to get it to them. The 3 local radio stations, instantaneously in case of emergency. Just about everyone there in town is covered. Of course, there's a cable television provider as well as satellite television, the Dish and Direct, and those guys with the tiny dishes. Also, many people, of course, get their news now from the internet. It's got a robust high-speed internet system there in Camden. As far as recreation programs, we're in the South, so hunting and fishing, other outdoor recreation activities abound. Just about everybody hunts. I believe first week of hunting season is a holiday during deer season. Duck hunting is a big deal. Fishing, the river there affords multiple fishing opportunities along with the little river lakes that accompany it, the Oxbow Lakes. So, the hospital always has to be prepared for injuries incurred with situations like this, snake bite and other issues. There's a river walk in the last few years that's developed downtown. People can go down and enjoy, and it's a nice little walking area connected with another area called Sandy Beach. So many opportunities to enjoy the river. It's kind of beautiful, so good place of peace for folks to go. And they on Friday nights in the summertime they offer free movies to people on the Riverwalk. There's an amphitheater and other programs are offered there, so really good place for Camden. They can be proud of that. There's several festivals, most notable the Daffodil Festival in the spring. People come from all over the country to view the beautiful daffodil gardens in the area. It provides a nice recreational facility in the spring. And there's 3 local fitness facilities. And for our older population, at one of the facilities, the Silver Sneakers program is offered, and that allows the older folks to come and get exercise every day and have fellowship with some of their friends and even meet people they didn't know before, and all while getting a little healthier. And Medicare covers this in many instances, so really good deal there. Environmental systems, the air quality is usually pretty good. When the paper mill went down, a big reason why that facility closed was because the grandfather clauses in their environmental contracts had run up, and it was going to be really expensive to update their facility, so they went down, and this improved the air quality in the area a great deal. And that thing's been gone for about 12 years now, and so the air quality's gotten a lot better in Camden. In the spring, though, we do have lots of pine plantations, and that, along with the hardwood trees and everything else pollinating, wild grasses and flowers, it can get pretty tough to breathe in the springtime. The Washita River is where the drinking waters come from. It comes to the Camden Water Utilities, and they purify it and send it out. And people pay a monthly bill for this, price per thousand, and it's relatively inexpensive. There's trash collection provided by the city government. They collect the fees for this through the water bill, and this garbage is collected, taken to a transition facility, and shipped out to another landfill out of town. There's a recycling center available so that we don't pollute our environment. You can take your batteries and other things to this center, and they dispose of them properly. And most people in Camden use natural gas. There's the main heat source for heating homes, although about a third of the homes in Camden are all electric. Most use natural gas. And one thing that they did to combat the West Nile disease that had come into the area through mosquito contact. They have a vector control program that has a small truck that sprays on a certain schedule in the neighborhood throughout the spring, summer, and fall, and really keeps mosquito abatement. It's a pretty effective program. Thank you guys very much.
Hi, this is Chandra Gurung, and I'm going to talk about some of the problems that we identified in our community, that is Camden, Arkansas. For two priority problems, I'm going to present short-term and long-term goals, nursing interventions, and strategies that could be used in implementing those nursing interventions. Here I have problems listed based on the priority level. The first one is obesity, specifically elderly obesity. Second one is economic disparity / poverty that is below the state poverty level. Third one is higher than average crime rate in the state level. And fourth one is below state level education. Short-term goal for priority problem obesity is clients will have increasing knowledge about the merits in maintaining lower body mass index (BMI) and the risks associated with the failure to do so. And the long-term goal is clients will maintain less than 25 BMI level. The first nursing intervention for the problem obesity is providing education on obesity and maintaining a healthy BMI. Strategies can be nurses can reach out to the community regarding obesity through various community events such as health fair and school education, and also nursing students can also provide teaching on small focus high-risk people through teaching project. The second nursing intervention is nurses can discuss findings to local city officials to help them guide to provide more infrastructures to the community to maintain healthy lifestyles. Strategies would be attending city board and coalition meetings, and also discussing findings with Camden Walkability Improvement Commissions. The second problem I have here is economic disparity / poverty. Some of the short-term goals associated with that problem are clients will know different services provided by the government that fulfill their economic needs. Clients who are living in poverty will seek appropriate governmental help when needed. Clients will develop a sense of pride, understanding that public assistance is a means to an end, not a way of life. Long-term goals are clients will have stable economic status, which will decrease the rate of poverty level compared to the state level 1. Clients will have higher level living standards. Nursing intervention related to economic disparity / poverty is helping clients fulfill immediate needs through education and public assistance. And strategy would be nurses can provide information to area health care providers about public assistance contacts. The second nursing intervention is raising students' expectations on standard of living. And strategy will be nurses can collaborate with the area youth center to identify disadvantaged youth to provide solutions to barriers of education and motivation for higher achievements.
Hi everyone, I'm Carmelo Venucci, and I'm going to talk today about the teaching and screening project that we did in Camden, Arkansas. We developed a nursing goal for the teaching plan. It was to educate senior citizens 65 plus age about the body mass index, effects of obesity on health, strategies and interventions for senior citizens to address obesity. We developed unique evaluation methods to provide a framework for future teaching and screening projects, and we wanted it to be applicable across diverse topics of education. we had nursing goal for the screening was to perform the body mass index for the 65 plus, and we also incorporated an optional multiphasic screening. That is to say, if a participant was out of range of their BMI, overweight basically, we would provide ask them if they wanted us to take their blood pressure, and we would be better able to develop a risk profile for that individual. Or if they just wanted us to take it anyways, we did. And included in that, we also did just ask them what some basic chronic issues that they had going on and stuff like that, and that allowed us to better guide our risk profile. So this is just a pictorial representation of our before teaching plan process. So basically, before we made the teaching plan, we asked the question of who needs help in Camden, who has a higher risk for disease or higher rates of obesity, issues like that. And ours was basically obesity and the elderly, because they're prevalent. They have a higher prevalence in Camden. We looked for any existing protocols or frameworks to help guide the development of it. We analyzed the data that was available. We utilized the local and regional level databases, but we also tried to incorporate national and global levels of data, but that was much harder to do because it's out there, but it may not be available in digital form, so it would be paper, or proprietary, and they didn't want us to use the data. And then we tried to gain knowledge about our subject. So elderly, obesity, diet, exercise, BMI, and teaching strategies. So after we had done all that, the design phase of the teaching project comes into play. So we design the teaching project, execute the teaching project, interpret our observations or what we found that was effective in our teaching, what was ineffective, and what we could have changed. And then we analyze it for future reference. So we found that Q&A session was more effective than just the lecture format because elderly people could voice their concerns, and we would be able to give them information that was in relation to them. These are just some short-term objectives that we had developed. This is just a short rundown of our teaching activities. So, group lecture, this will be the Q&A. We had a poster board, we gave them handouts, and then we showed them how a BMI was taken. The outline of the plan, this would be how we identified learning needs. So we gave them a pre-lecture questionnaire. We used a Likert type 6-item. And we gave them a post-lecture questionnaire. We'll go over that later. We helped identify the level of education and health literacy. We used the local data, but also we used national data too, and cognitive function factors. So if we found that even if there would be a higher literacy in Camden, I don't think it is, but I think the literacy was lower than average. But for example, we'll say literacy rates in Camden were higher. Well, we're dealing with elderly and cognitive function decreases, so we need to still cater our teaching to a lower cognitive level. And then the rest of this is just a brief overview of the outline. This again is just basics of what we did during the teaching project. Some of this is redundant, and I'm sorry about that, but we did a lot of work in this project, and I guess we've made too many PowerPoints for it. This is going over the actual screening phase. So we perform a BMI on the participants, and then we provided the multi-phasic screening if they wanted it, and individualize a risk profile for them. This is again going over the individualized risk profile, the optional screening. I think the main thing on this PowerPoint that I wanted to highlight was the rationales that we would give for the risk profiles. Like, you possibly have diabetes because you're obese, but also it increases your risk for developing cardiovascular disease. And we would give them strategies to reduce their risk, not only of losing weight, but also diet and exercise, and how that helps reduce the risk for certain chronic diseases. And the main thing is the identification of community resources for these folks. So if somebody had arthritis and they had trouble working out, we would tell them about any community assets such as a pool in order for them to be able to exercise and meet their exercise requirements. And that's the main thing that we highlighted. These are some rationales. We use an old adult learning theory, which is part of it is catered towards the older adult population. And it just runs down how we went about creating our project. So I'm not going to go, and you can read them on here. I'll have to run all of them down. And we also use Erickson's stages of development. I'm going through these slides and not really talking about them, because I'm going to talk about them in a little bit, because it all has to come together with the evaluation phase. This is an example of how we formatted our teaching, and it was developed this way because it's simpler for older individuals to read. We didn't use any we used block lettering. We didn't do any all uppercase letters. We didn't use any italicized script. And what helped guide us in developing it is because we knew who our participants for our teaching project were going to be, even though we had initially developed it for a 10th grade reading level, we changed it to a college reading level. It says 12th here, but it really was a college reading level, and that's 31. I'm going to talk about this in a minute, and this in a minute. But we used these frameworks for development. And you can see the bullet points, how they're offset. That was another important point that they wanted to, that they identified for the elderly community and learning needs. This is an example of, I believe it's the poster board. Okay, methods of evaluation. This was done pre-project. That is to say, about midway in the project, when we had identified our community that we were going to teach about. We did a pre-test or a pre-questionnaire about our skills or our perceived skill set, and we'll go over that in a minute. And we did a post-questionnaire. We also did a pre-lecture questionnaire for the participants and a post lecture questionnaire. And we also added in a comparative self-assessment for ourselves, and we're going to go over that in a minute too. We did a question and answer session, which was very beneficial. We used the flesh region E-scores, small grading levels, and I've already talked about those. This is how the small grading levels is broken down. Flesh region E-scores. So I said college earlier, and I think it was 31 was the score, so it's right in that college range. This is the questionnaire we gave to the participants pre and post lecture, and it was a 6-item Likert scale, and basically we just wanted to know their perceived knowledge, what they thought that they already knew about the subject, which would allow us to evaluate them, or evaluate our teaching. And we just wanted a better way to evaluate in a more quantitative manner, and that's what this attempt is basically. And I think it's going to be hard to read on the actual YouTube video because these are italicized and small. But the main thing that we made sure is that the scale that we used, we wanted the fully agree to be on the left side and the fully disagree to be on the right side, because oftentimes people don't read the rating scale and they will circle thinking that we're asking about agree on this side and disagree on this side, and that way we can throw out any outliers and make a better judgment on these assessments. And we also understand that this assessment, of course, is going to be biased in our case, but we just wanted to develop a method to use to help us measure and possibly use in the future for other teaching purposes. So if somebody works in administration, they could use this and format it in a different way for their nurses, possibly for job satisfaction, stuff like that. But we just wanted to create something that could be used in a lot of different areas. These are just the formulas that we use to analyze our data for the self-assessments. And I'm sure it's going to be hard to read. And these formulas actually came from this individual, Roebuck, and they used it for student evaluations in medical school. This is our this is actually what we found after we analyzed our scores. So in question 1, there was a 55% perceived increase in their knowledge set. 60% question 4, 69% question 6. And of course, these are most likely not accurate because these individuals know that we did this for a grade, so they probably wanted to make sure that they didn't give us scores that were that were lower. Basically, they made sure that they put higher scores on the second assessment thing. But again, we can always use that for other purposes. This is our question set that we use for ourselves, and we did this pre-teaching project and post-teaching project to help us understand our own perceived skill set. And it was also a 1 through 6 Likert scale, and we did use three domains, 1 skill because we didn't have a lot of actual skills teaching, because we just showed them about the BMI and that was about it, how it's measured. And then the cognitive, which would be just knowledge-based information. And then the affective is basically awareness type stuff. And it's going to be hard to read, I think, I should have made this block lettering, but it's hard for me to read right now. But the wording is different, definitely different questions. We didn't use any of the same questions because we don't want to ask our elderly population. We don't know if they're have a health background or not. So we definitely kept them very general. I understand how obesity can impact my health. I understand what a BMI measurement is. I know what healthy foods are. I know what healthy exercise is. I know how much I need to exercise weekly to maintain my weight. I understand other factors that contribute to obesity. Those are the questions that we asked them. Questions that we ask ourselves are, in the skills domain, I can perform a BMI measurement on individuals in the 65 plus population. I can define the BMI scores for borderline obese, and morbidly obese in the 65 plus population. I understand how obesity impacts health. Question 4, I understand what a healthy diet should consist of for the 65 plus population. Question 5, I understand healthy exercises and a healthy exercise regime for the 65 plus population. Question 6, I understand other factors that contribute to obesity in the 65 plus population. Question 7, I am aware of teaching strategies used for the 65 plus population. Question 8 was, I understand and am prepared to resolve any ethical conflicts that may arise when teaching. This got cut off, and I'll have to go back and show you what. There's actually, it's a 9-question questionnaire, and it has to do, the last two are ethical conflicts, and I know what to do if ethical conflict does arise. And those were asked just basically to make sure that we do safe recommendation levels. And this is just another thing that we use to evaluate. That's a formula that we use to evaluate that questionnaire for ourselves. And these are our, this is the actual, what came out, what we found about ourselves. And you can see that our scores didn't change at all in a lot of the questions. And I think these couple two were mainly about how BMI is taken and the normal ranges. So I know Chandra and Michael knew what those were, but I actually didn't know. Even though I was doing the teaching, I didn't know what a normal BMI should be for somebody, and I didn't even know how to take a BMI. I just knew how to take weight and stuff. But these are, of course, are going to be skewed and biased and not realistic. But you can see how you can evaluate something in your workplace if you wanted to, and it's just an easy way to demonstrate that. This questionnaire was developed mainly to help guide our teaching plan and what we knew pre-teaching versus what we know post-teaching. But it was mainly to guide the teaching in order to develop it collaboratively. So we analyzed this to understand what each of our group partners knew. That's not a very good way. That's not a very good explanation. So basically, these were descriptive. These are blank, and we each individually filled them out. Answered them. We answered the questions, and then we got together, and then we went on the NIH website and compared our answers with their recommendations, and then we scored them based on a collaborative review. So if I had answered this and I thought my answer compared to the NIH recommendations was and it's a scale of 1 through 3. 1 would be agree, 2 would be somewhat not agree but accurate, 1 is accurate, 2 is somewhat accurate, and 3 is not accurate. And so if I thought my answer compared to the NIH recommendations was a 3, a not accurate, Chandra thought it was somewhat accurate, and Michael thought it was accurate, then it would actually still be not accurate because it's a negative leaning scale, and that's basically so. In that way, it's built-in bias to make sure that it's mainly for safety reasons. But I didn't really do an analysis on this because our scores really weren't significant, so I didn't want to go through the whole data part of it, crunching the numbers, because they really wouldn't have been that significant, because most of us were pretty spot on. I think I was wrong. I didn't know about this one, and number 1 and 2, but the rest of the scores were mostly accurate. There was really no change. But in that way, we can develop plans of implementation based on knowledge. This is some of the Q&A questions that we asked post-lecture, and this was probably the most beneficial. And these are some of the questions that we asked. Of course, there was a lot more open-ended questions that would go along with these questions and their questions that they asked us. And in this way, this helped us with the screening, the multiphasic screening, and the development of a risk profile for these individuals. But I think that we came to the conclusion that the Q&A is almost more beneficial than anything, because really, you can cater it to their needs. This is just a pictorial, this is just a Venn diagram of how we went about the analysis phase after the post-lecture, post-teaching project. So we observed the teaching project, we reviewed the data, and then we made interpretations, and we found that the Q&A was most beneficial. The handouts and the poster board were appropriate for our age group and our learning purposes, and that really the questionnaires were not going to be accurate. They're going to be skewed. So, but anyways, we move on to this is how we developed going about searching how to find what to teach, basically. And it looks intimidating, but it really isn't. This k-means algorithm in product group, we were just trying to group our search out for information in categories that would be easily broken down. So if we did a search on diet, we grouped diet, and then we would do a subgroup of healthy diets, and then there might be another subgroup of healthy foods in those healthy diets. And that's what that basically is talking about. This part right here, the term vectoring, that is basically a way for us to use a lot of documents, and instead of using title words or subject searches and other methods like that, basically we define what we're trying to find out, and these would be like the in-text words that we're trying to find. And then the main thing is that it has to have like a verb part in the text. And then after that part of it, this is just a representation of how, if we had so many documents, how these documents and these words line up in the frequency. So in document 1, this word diet only shows up once in document 1, once in document 2, and no times in the text in document 3. Obesity, exercise, you can see, so basically exercise showed up 0 times in document 1, 0 times in document 2, 1 time in document 3. So, and you can correlate exercise elderly. So this document 3 probably has to do with healthy exercises for the elderly. This document probably only has to do with obesity and diet, because it only shows up, those things only show up. And then this document 2 would have to do with diet and the elderly. So that helps refine our search, because that way we don't waste the time on something that we don't really need. And that's just a representation of the math part of it. But no one needs that. And this is just the syntax of how it's gone about. And it basically is the same as the chart that I showed in the other slide, but the main thing is that this part, this product, is basically asking what we wanted to find. And then, so if we wanted to define diet, exercise, obesity, and the elderly, right here, there, and compare those two documents. And it found that it's not, these two documents really don't fit for our search needs. So, this is continuing. Oh, conclusions to our document search. This is the library and the machine that we use. We use the Hadoop map reduction, and basically, out of the 96,000 documents that normally would occur on a normal search, and that's actually, I think it was more than 96,000 documents relating to our subject matter, we could reduce it down to 50 by using the round vector. And that's the main thing that it does. And finally, our conclusions to our teaching project as the evaluation. There was an increase in the mean self-assessment scores, both for us and for the participants. We did find that the descriptive knowledge test for us pre-teaching strategy was helpful in guiding our teaching plan appropriately, and helped us define the most accurate information primary for our needs for the elderly. The Q&A is very beneficial as a teaching strategy, even more so than just a lecture format. The 65 plus population needs scenario relation material to help them learn, so we can't just give them straight didaction. We have to actually talk to them and find out what their concerns are, what kind of chronic diseases they may have, and then we can better direct the teaching that way. And that kind of comes into the Q&A, and we do that a lot clinically. But I guess it's important to remember, if going out in the community, that you should also include a Q&A to help guide the scenario. And just giving examples during a lecture really still isn't as effective as a Q&A is. And I know it's difficult to do a Q&A for a long time because you get a lot of questions, but I guess that would depend on your group size too. We had a small group size, so it didn't take too long. We found that the self-rating questionnaires have a built-in bias with them, so you have to make sure that when you're evaluating, you have to develop the right questionnaire and the right questions within that questionnaire for what you're trying to evaluate. And you have to be aware of common causes that would skew your results. So it's really not that appropriate. You have to make sure you have to make sure of your audience and of your results. And the collaborative review process that we used with the pre-test, post-test was very beneficial, especially because we were able to ask questions about the subject that we may not have been as accurate as we thought we were before the project versus after the project. So, and then these are just some of the references.